Today is April 3rd, 2021. Here in Indianapolis, we've got some bonus basketball. This men's Final Four game between Gonzaga and UCLA has already required one overtime, and since the Bruins just tied the score and left the Zags very little time to get a shot off, we are probably headed for another. Before we hear the buzzer, let's take stock of what's going on here. How a legacy basketball Goliath became an underdog, and how a tiny private school became an undefeated powerhouse. Let's rewind. This video is presented by Stella Artois, a taste worth more. This 11 seed might seem pretty weird, especially if you only know UCLA as a historic entity, alma mater of innumerable legends, winningest men's program ever. If you only know recent events, it's the Final Four berth that's the surprising part. UCLA has won 11 basketball championships, yes, but none since 1995. Back in the early 2000s, the Ben Howland era, the Bruins brought in some elite talent and at least approached a return to glory, but that little run of contention crapped out. Howland's successor, Steve Alford, fared much worse. UCLA's recruitment of the Ball brothers drew headlines, but ultimately more for surprises and scandals than for the actual basketball. LaMelo Ball bailed. LiAngelo Ball had his whole thing. Only Lonzo Ball actually appeared in games for the Bruins, and his squad lost in the Sweet 16 in 2017. In 2019, Alford got fired mid-season, and UCLA missed the NCAA tournament, something that has happened way too often this century. In came Mick Cronin. Cronin had scarcely worked outside the sovereign republic of Ohio-Tucky. He started his head coaching career at Murray State, then took over his alma mater, Cincinnati, for over a decade. But the chance to lead this storied program back to where it's supposed to be enticed Cronin to cross the country. Last season, the Bruins shook off a rough start to finish second in the Pac-12. Cronin won Conference Coach of the Year, and UCLA looked well-placed to make a respectable return to the Buns. This year, then, would be the official beginning of the Mick Cronin era. His first season leading his own core of recruits, including five-star point guard Daishen Buns. Well, at least UCLA could still depend on their go-to upperclassman, big senior guard Chris Smith, who... Buns. Yeah. The Bruins' successful run this year has come from an unexpected source. Johnny Juzang spent most of last year sitting on the Kentucky Wildcats bench, behind some dudes playing in the NBA right now. After that season's abrupt end, Juzang announced, remotely of course, his intention to transfer to the school in his hometown, the place he might have originally picked if they hadn't been such a mess back in 2019. Juzang found his way to instant eligibility and became the leader UCLA needed after their star senior went down. Flanked by two talented sophomores, fellow Californian Jaime Jaquez and mini guard Tiger Campbell, Juzang has been a revelation in blue and gold. After scarcely seeing the floor at Kentucky, Juzang's had several diamond scoring performances this season, including a few in this tournament. To even participate in the bracket proper, UCLA had to win an 11 seed versus 11 seed play-in versus Michigan State. Strange matchup, strange times, and it took an overtime to decide. Juzang had some big buckets in OT, combining for 50 points overall with Jaquez to punch UCLA's ticket. Juzang has saved his best for the best. 27 points in a huge first-round upset of BYU, 28 despite an injured ankle against Michigan in the Elite Eight. Tonight, he's surpassed both those totals. Just when the Bruins needed him, Juzang has played every single minute and turned in a career performance. Juzang could have, perhaps should have, earned the chance to win this game at the free throw line toward the end of regulation. But he had no such luck because of this borderline charging call. You be the judge. Either way, he made up for that here in OT just now by following his own last-second miss off a tough contested floater to tie the score and reach a game-high 29 points. I fully expect Juzang to keep playing uninterrupted in the second OT, and perhaps keep the bizarro Cinderella run alive. You know, assuming there is a second OT. Safe assumption, but hey, while we're here, let's at least entertain the possibility of a miracle. Jalen Suggs has the ball. Him even being on this team represents a long brewing miracle. Even if you know your college hoops, you may have wondered at one point or another, hey, how the hell did Gonzaga get good? It's a private Jesuit liberal arts school in Spokane, Washington, with an undergraduate enrollment of around 5,000, one of the smallest colleges ever to hold a number one ranking. So, how is a fair question? The answer is not quickly. For the first 90 years of its existence, Gonzaga men's basketball did not make a single NIT or NCAA tournament. If basketball fans in our lifetimes had heard of Gonzaga, and I'll include myself here, it was because of John Stockton. The future NBA great happened to be the Spokane-born son of a multi-generation Gonzaga legacy. So he played his college ball for the Bulldogs in the early 80s. The Zags still didn't win much, but the wheels were in motion. Around the Stockton era, the Zags became members of what is now known as the West Coast Conference. Gonzaga's program leader at the time was Dan Fitzgerald, who often served the dual role of athletic director and coach. Fitzgerald led Gonzaga to their first regular season WCC championship in 1994. They didn't make it out of their conference tournament, but they got a run in the NIT as a consolation prize and made some headlines by upsetting Stanford. The following year, Gonzaga finally won the WCC tournament to earn their first ever trip to March Madness, and that was that. They got smushed by Maryland in the first round. Soon thereafter, Fitzgerald stepped back from coaching and appointed his assistant, Dan Monson, as head coach. Under Monson, the Zags embarked on their first true run, 1999, the year the rest of the country went, oh, whoa, is that random college John Stockton went to that kind of sounds like someone sneezing? Are they good now? Led by future NBA player Richie Fromm, Gonzaga went deep. First ever tournament win, first ever Sweet 16 thanks to a stunningly decisive upset of Stanford, first ever Elite Eight after taking down Florida. Only the eventual champion UConn Huskies could shatter Cinderella's glass slipper. The Gonzaga Bulldogs had arrived, and whiff out the window went their head coach. Yeah, right after that tournament run, Monson signed one of those "he's ours, everyone, go away" contracts with Gonzaga, and before he coached a single game on that contract, Monson bailed for an offer he could not refuse. Kinda ironic that it was Minnesota, the Zags' first victim in that deep tournament run. In any event, this super hot team on the rise fell into the hands of longtime assistant Mark Few, who, well, that's still him on the sideline, so I think we've gotten to the really good part. Indeed, Few rode the momentum from 1999 about as well as possible. Under Few, the Zags built on their motion offense. They kept pushing pace and space toward one of college basketball's more NBA-adjacent systems. Under Few, the Zags brought in their best NBA prospect since Stockton, Washington transfer Dan Dickau, and gradually established themselves alongside much bigger schools as a genuine pipeline to the league. With better recruits came more victories. The Bulldogs smashed regular season win totals over and over and made it into the NCAA tournament every year. In the last decade, Gonzaga finally recreated the magic of '99. Another Elite Eight run in 2015. They beat UCLA to get there, and then a national final appearance in 2017. There's no secret here. This is just incremental, straightforward progress under 20 years of great recruiting and coaching. A genuine powerhouse built from grassroots. And make no mistake, Gonzaga has been a powerhouse. They started to see a number one next to their name in 2013, and that has been a reasonable objective ever since. The only thing Few's Bulldogs haven't done is win it all, but man oh man has this year seemed like the year. That begins with Jalen Suggs, the guy about to shoot, I think, right now. He represents another leveling up for Gonzaga. As a high schooler in Minnesota, Suggs established himself among the best recruits in the country, and not just in basketball. He's seriously considered an offer to play football at Ohio State. Yes, Jalen is related to legendary linebacker Terrell Suggs. He's also related to former NBA All-Star Eddie Jones and current NBA rookie Tyrese Halliburton. This family is very good at sports. Anyway, Suggs chose basketball, wherein every major scouting entity ranked him as a 5-star recruit. And that mega stud prospect, not a local, not a dark horse or a late bloomer or a transfer, but a 5-star recruit with his sights set on a near-term future as an NBA lottery pick chose to spend a year at Gonzaga. And what a year it's been. The Zags are perfect. Not just perfect, they've won all their games except one, regular season and postseason, by a double-digit margin. While UCLA slugged out an Elite Eight upset to get here, Gonzaga absolutely smushed the Mobley brothers and their 6-seed USC Trojans. Oh, and don't worry, while Suggs is surely headed to the draft, Gonzaga is feeling confident right now about getting a commitment from an even bigger recruit, like biggest in the nation, for next year. In the meantime, that's not a double-digit lead. UCLA has made the Zags look mortal, finally. When the Bruins took a lead early in the second half, it represented Gonzaga's first post-halftime deficit since early December. It's been a close game ever since. Elite Zags shooter Corey Kispert hasn't been able to get it going from outside. Guards Joel Ayayi and Andrew Nembhard have been real spark plugs on offense, but unable to contain Juzang and Jaquez one-on-one at the other end. Sophomore big man / mustache host Drew Timme's been the best Zag going in this one. He's been cooking in the post all overtime, and before that, he combined with Suggs for the clutch play of regulation. Right at the 2-minute mark, UCLA had a clear chance to retake the lead on what appeared to be a clean dunk for Cody Riley, until Suggs swooped in to stuff the much taller player, igniting a fast break that ended in this big Timme slam. After that point, neither team could pull ahead for good, and, well, here we are again, almost certainly headed for another overtime because Suggs doesn't have time to do anything here except pull up from half court. We're talking 35 feet at a minimum. So, just out of curiosity, has the men's tournament ever seen a miracle of this caliber? We got inches away from a resounding yes 11 years ago, when Gordon Hayward's game-winning half-court attempt in the final didn't quite go down. Perhaps the most notoriously agonizing close call in history. StatHead tells me there are only 2 historic buzzer-beating makes of comparable magnitude to a potential miracle basket here. Maybe you remember this one from 2016. Northern Iowa's Paul Jesperson connected from beyond half court to break a tie and beat Texas. Listen to that sound of the doink off the glass. But that was just the first round. The other is from 1981. Arkansas's U.S. Reed had to actually navigate traffic a bit before he stuck this half-quarter, and that wasn't to break a tie, it actually turned a 1-point deficit into a win over Louisville. But that was just the second round. So while Suggs looks like he could get a step closer than those guys before he must heave, the feat he's attempting right now, winning a game from Hail Mary distance this late in the tournament, is unprecedented. We are more than likely headed to a second overtime of the upstart UCLA Bruins, that's weird to say, giving the dominant Gonzaga Bulldogs, also kind of weird to say, their first real test in a season of dominance. Let's see what happens. Welcome to a moment in history.
It's time to do something. Suggs for the win. Oh, yes! Oh, yes! Unbelievable! Unbelievable! The perfect season remains on go.
Thanks for watching Rewinder. Subscribe to Secret Base on Patreon if you want to join all these extremely attractive people in enjoying exclusive videos, blog posts, podcasts, and more. It's cool.